Oh. Welcome to Meaningful Mornings. The word sannyasa is made up of 3 parts. Sam means well or fully. Ni, N-I, means down. And asa means to throw. Putting this together, the word sannyasa means to throw down fully. What is to be thrown down fully? Distractions. Which is why a synonym for the word sannyasa is to focus. We have this propensity to externalize sannyasa, to throw down this and throw down that, yet never holding on to being a focused personality, to being dedicated to the presence. Meaningful Mornings is a workshop to stop externalizing and to start internalizing, because a distraction is a distraction if you are distracted. If you're not distracted, it's not a distraction, no. I reflect on this deeply, considering the diverse and deep responsibilities I have as a son, as a husband, as a father. If I'm distracted, then I need to let go of these responsibilities. But a more holistic approach is for me to work harder and smarter to be focused. It is not the problem of my parents or my wife or my kids that I would be distracted. Whose problem is it? Now you all get a chance to point at me, so do it. Verse 55 is the first, foremost, and final sign of one who is enlightened. And the sign is contentment. In our motive to act, sukha praptihi, which means to embrace peace, one who's enlightened, they've embraced, as in past tense, peace. They have reached the highest, so there's no more to gain. You will know this when you no longer seek gain. As long as you seek gain, you are not at the highest. But when you stop seeking gain, then you know you are being the highest. All of the rest of these signs and verses are effects or expressions of this cause, this source. Sharing this in a lighter way. When your heart is full, your stomach is full. Do you agree? When your heart is full, your stomach is full. If you're unhappy, you tend to be more hungry, not just for food, but for materials. See how the cause is the heart being full, the effect is your stomach is full too. So if you want to be physically healthier, be happier. That's the messaging. In verse 56, Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha. When in difficulty, one is not shaken. Sukheshu, when one is in ease, vigata sprihaha, one is not shaken. The reasoning for this, the logic is, the one who's independently joyous, their vision is on the fundamentals. Their sight will still be on the functional, but which is taking precedent now? Vision over sight, fundamentals over functionals. Such a person is they're deeper than what their equipments are, their experiences are going through. How did they become so deep? By being a muni, one who's perpetually reflecting. For them, it's not just meaningful mornings, it's meaningful brunch, meaningful lunch, meaningful afternoon, meaningful evening, meaningful sleep. For all of us, we see the sun rise and set. That's what our sight is on. It's functional. Yet we know science, so our vision is on the fundamentals that the sun is not rising and setting, correct? We know science. We don't know spirituality, which is what we're trying to do. The second line of the 56th verse, the one who is independent is free, vita, of what? Raga, bhaya, krodha, which means attachment, fear, and anger. The full framework here. Avidya means forgetting. Forgetting your vastness. If there's avidya, then there will be vikshepa, which means projecting. Because I've forgotten how to be happy, I project that happiness is not me. It is in articles, beings, and circumstances. Projecting then causes attachment or raga. The more I project completion onto my family, onto my home, the more attached I will be to them. If there's attachment, then there will be fear, which is bhaya. I'm afraid that my family, my home, etc. will go. And what will go with that? My happiness. And see the logic of the thought. Part of Sankhya Yoga was no change. If you know all is always changing, does it make sense to be attached? Then even being afraid is nonsense. But where are we? Krodha. When what we're attached to does change, what happens to us? We become angry. Why did God do this to me? Why did the president do this? How come my workplace is like this? If there's fear, there will be attachment. I'll share this with all of you in another model. Okay, I'm changing the words around to make us relate to this more. 5 S's. You know, I have to give you more frameworks and more alliteration, so you feel like there's some worth that's coming in meaningful mornings, correct? Separation causes smallness, causes sadness, causes stress, causes Stuckness. I know, I don't think that's a real word, but you get it. Stuckness. Separation, that's when I forget oneness. Then this furthers smallness. In Vedanta, this would be our vasanas. Our vasanas, our blueprints, make us feel small or limited. Our vasanas get expressed as desires in the intellect, which I called sadness. The intellect feels sad, it desires happiness, so it has these desires. The intellect then expresses through the mind, and that's the stress. Constantly thinking about regrets and anxieties. The vasanas expressed through the intellect, which expresses through the mind. See the BMI chart that I'm showing you? Swami Chinmayan on this BMI chart. And then, if there's a lot of stress, there's stuckness, which happens at the body level. That I become a workaholic. I'm working for completion. But the more I work, the more I have to work. There's no end to this, so I'm stuck. Not for the one who's content. We continue to verse 57. We'll pretend like we'll actually complete this verse. I give more than 10 minutes of review, and then we enter the content. Yes, sarvatranabhi snehaha tat prapya shubha shubham nabi nandati na dveshti tasya prajna pratishtita. Yaha, the one who is free, anabhi snehaha, they are without attachment, without dependency. Where? Sarvatra, which means everywhere. It doesn't matter what the context is, they are free. From our perspective, we may see a master who's desiring this or desiring that. From their perspective, they are only desiring their natural needs, which really means needs for their body. They don't have desires for pleasure, possession, position. They only desire some food, some space. So if I see a master and think, wow, she or he has so many desires, that's from our perspective because we think like that. But from their perspective, they're only keeping this equipment functioning. Like if I told all of you, I have a desire for oxygen, would you call me desirous? No, that's not a desire. Yes. It would be very poor thinking to label that. It's very technical thinking to label that as a desire. So it doesn't matter where they go. They're going freely. Tat prapya shubha ashubha. And as they move about, when they come across that which is shubha, we'll generalize that as good, and ashubha, that which is bad, they're still free. And the logic of this, they are not acting for fulfillment. They're acting out of fulfillment. There's such a difference. For versus of. Since they're not acting for fulfillment, they don't label their experiences. That this is good, that is bad. If I'm acting for fulfillment, I want good, correct? But if I'm acting out of fulfillment, I don't have these labels. First quarter, we should be needs-oriented rather than wants-oriented. Yesterday, I told everyone when it comes to gift giving, we should give what people need, and nobody here needs anything. So give to those people who do need. We're such a culture in our families about toys and treats. Here's a toy, here's a treat. And that's why I said we're only making the people in our families, our communities weaker. Encouraging wants, not needs. How can one be free then? Second quarter, for us to label less. If we label less, we will act more out of fulfillment. And the last two lines briefly. Nabhi nandati nadveshti. When that which is good comes into their horizon, they're not happy because of it. When that which is bad comes into their horizon, nadveshti. They're not sad or don't dislike that. When you have nothing to gain, you have nothing to lose. Can you just visualize living like that? How? Tasya prajna pratishtita. They are living in their nature, which really means they're living in God's world. There are 8.5 billion ego worlds. In Meaningful Mornings itself, there's 400. But there's only one God's world. That's where they're living. We will go into our constant review of this verse on Monday. From inspiration to application, your application on Tuesday was to be extraordinarily grateful. This has been a special week. And for Vivek, it is my belief and faith and trust that Swami Tejomayananda is a Sthita Prajna. And that's why this is a special week, why I plan for on his birthday that we begin exploring the signs of one who's independently joyous. On Wednesday, your application was for you to rededicate yourself to your guide. And I had shared that you should follow your guide and further what your guide is engaged in. That's what it means to be like your guide and do what your guide does. Thursday, your application was to reflect on the 3 fundamental fears we have. I'll simply list them out right now. Death, unknown, sorrow. I'll explain more in verse 58. Your application for this morning, live in God's world. Live in God's world. So we'll all be living in the same world. We'll continue with our freedom walk and freedom talk this weekend, and I'll share some insights about what Independence Day means for Canada, for America. This is just a label. We need to live more inclusively. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be happiness.